walk us through what happens starting Friday, August 11th through the terrible Sunday, August 13th. Briefly.
So let me start a little bit before that. So once the permit got filed, I stood up my fusion center, which is all of our law enforcement personnel in Virginia. We embedded state police. We had good undercover operations. We were dealing with the FBI and the DHS. We knew that these people were being told to come with weapons, come armed, and to hurt people. So we had known this ahead of time. And we kept trying to relay this to the city of Charlottesville that this is going to be a bad scene. And it's going to be a mess, and we need to get really in front of it. So we sent our state police. I called out the National Guard for the first time in 50 years on a domestic situation to go down. But we work for the city of Charlottesville. We're in a support role because under unified command, like here in New York, if it's a city issue, the city controls it and the state supports. So Friday, we had all the preparations done, and about 9 o'clock at night at the University of Virginia on the grounds, there's a mountain there, and you can see in the mountain hundreds and hundreds of torchbearers coming down the mountain, walking to the University of Virginia, chanting, "Jews, you will not replace us," blood and soil, all the sort of 1933, 1934 German chants that the Nazis used. And they came onto the campus on Friday night, encircled the Thomas Jefferson statue. They started throwing their tiki torches. And we at the state had never been alerted. The city knew they were coming, we didn't. The permit was for Saturday at noon. So obviously we got on high alert by the time we could get the state police there. You know, most of the issues had been dealt with, but it was a big notice. And then Saturday morning, I had my Secretary of Public Safety. He went there. I did not go. They did not want me there. You don't want the governor there. You hire law enforcement to do their job. They didn't want me breathing down their back. And knowing my personality, I, of course, would have wanted to walk out to the crowd. And you just don't want to create issues. And beginning at about 6 or 7 o'clock, I started getting reports. And about 8 o'clock, all these militia groups showed up. Very frightening. They all had semi-automatic weapon rifles, all strapped over their backs and in front. And they all had revolvers strapped to their thighs. And they looked like real military. So when Brian Moran sent me the first picture, I said, who the heck are they? Are they ours? Because I thought they could have been our state police tactical folks. He said, I don't know. I said, well, go find out who they are. And they were militia groups from all over the country who were there supposedly to protect First Amendment rights. And then, of course, as we went through the morning, we had skirmishes and things going back and forth. CNN kept showing the same fight over and over. But what happened was the city of Charlottesville had an agreement with the neo-Nazis. I mean, that's almost a misnomer. How do you have an agreement with the neo-Nazis? I mean, honestly. But that they would only come in through one entrance with the white supremacists. They did not do that. They came in from every entrance. And then thousands of counter-protesters showed up. And we just had this broiling mix of people with weapons. And then finally at about 11:15, I was not supposed to call state of emergency because it's a city issue. The mayor should call the state of emergency, and then I would support. But at about 11:15, Brian called me up and said, this is out of control. The rally wasn't even supposed to start till noon. But to listen to these people, 1,000 neo-Nazis screaming the worst things you've ever heard. Every other word was the F and N word. Everything, every woman, the F and C word. I'm standing in front of the synagogue and they're saying we're going to burn you and we're going to burn that synagogue like we did in Auschwitz. I got to tell you folks, I have never in my life experienced anything like this. And you wonder, how did we get to a place in America? People used to wear hoods in this country, and they used to do it at night. How do you get to a place where you walk down a city street screaming at a fellow human being the worst things I've ever heard? And they all were carrying shields with swastikas. You know, my father fought in World War II. You know, he fought to stop what Hitler had done to 6 million Jews, exterminated, and these people are actually carrying the symbol of the swastika of Adolf Hitler, really? And they had his picture on t-shirts, really? So at about 11:15, Brian calls me. We'd seen enough. He talked to my commander of the state police, and the commander said, well, you know, it's really up to the city. And Brian said, Colonel, you got to call the governor. We got to call. He said, well, you know, because law enforcement wants to work together. Brian finally called me at 11:21, explained to me the situation. I said, that's it. I'm calling the state of emergency. I really don't care what the city thinks. And I declared the state of emergency. I signed the order. I told them to get into the park. I want it cleared immediately. And at 11:22, the state police moved in, all in tactical gear, and told them they have 11 minutes to leave the park. 11 minutes, they actually cleared the park, and then the National Guard came in and secured the park. So before noon, before the rally even was supposed to start, we felt pretty good. We cleared the park, we were in good shape. About this time, the President of the United States called me, Donald Trump. I explained to him what was happening, what I had seen, what we had heard. These were despicable people. And we had a good conversation. But I said to the President, I said, you know, and I've known Trump for a while. I was chairman of the National Governors Association, so I had to deal with him a lot. And I said, you know, Mr. President, we have to stop this hateful language in this country. You know, he had done the issue of the 7 countries, not allowing folks to come into our country, and the immigrant policy. I said, this is really hurting our economy. In Virginia, you're scaring people. And then he went off on a 10-minute tangent about the economy and how great it was, lowest African American, blah, 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 blah. You know, the stuff he does. But when I hung up the phone, I actually figured and thought he would do the right thing. And I had said, President Obama had Charleston, President Bush had 9/11, President Clinton had Oklahoma City. When you're president, you maybe get 1 or 2 instances where you have the ability to stand up to the world and show you are a moral leader. And people are looking at you for leadership. So I felt pretty good that he would do it after our conversation. So we cleared the park and felt good. About an hour later, my secretary called me back and said, are you watching TV? And I said, yeah, I don't see anything. He said, you're about to see it. James A. Fields, a maniac from Ohio, weaponized his car and took it right through the crowd of Charlottesville and killed 32-year-old Heather Heyer and injured dozens of people. So I immediately got a helicopter, flew down to Charlottesville to do the press conference. I'm waiting for Trump. And then Trump comes out and does his press conference. And if you all remember, it was so shocking. He came out and said there were good people on both sides. Folks, there were not good people in the neo-Nazi movement. I'm sorry. They were not good people on the white nationalists. These were horrible human beings who had crawled out from under their rock because they felt that they could come out, and how they truly felt. They were racist and thought they could come out, and they came from 35 states. And it was sad. And when he did that, I knew I had to speak for the country. So I flew down on my helicopter from Fairfax, because my helicopter was being used, the state police one, for surveillance. And folks, I remember it like it was yesterday. We landed, and as soon as I got into the car, we had a big motorcade with police because of all the issues. And the head of my detail says, Governor, an aircraft just gone down. I just had a horrible pit in my stomach. Because as I was flying in, the folks on the Fairfax helicopter said, there's your Trooper 1, the state police, and they talked back and forth. But I didn't see any other aircraft, and I was very nervous that our helicopter had gone down. So I went over to do the press conference because the world was looking to me because Trump had not done what he should have done. And I knew what I had to do. And I remember I was about to walk out, and there were thousands of cameras, but I had to speak to the nation. I had to speak to people that this is not who Virginia is, and this is not who America is. We are not these haters that you've seen on television. We're not. We're better than that. And just before I went out, I was informed by the state police that, in fact, the helicopter had been my helicopter that crashed. And I lost the pilot who had flown me for 3 years, and one of my executive protection unit security guards who had been in charge of my children. I tell you, I was crushed. And I went out and then gave the speech, and as you all remember, I stood up. Trump refused to say the words neo-Nazi or white supremacist. Refused to say it, and he refused to condemn them. I did. I told him to go home, get the hell out of Virginia, get the hell out of the United States of America. You pretend you're a bunch of patriots. I said, you are a bunch of cowards, and we don't want you here in this great country. And I had to do it. I had to speak for the country.